Hi, my name's Sophia Hernandez-Crade, and I'd like to share with you a little bit about my family and I story. So this all started around 9 months ago, September of last year. Just to give you a little bit of context, I had just decided to launch my career as an artist, and so things were looking really wonderful. I was, extremely happy and optimistic about the future. I had just decided to go on a camping trip and was driving back and just kept on getting this kind of nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. So when I got home, I found out that my mom, who had been previously, just an extremely healthy woman, is someone who watches her diet very well. She eats about the most nutritious diet anyone could imagine, and is constantly exercising. That she had gone to the doctor and found out that she had some kind of abdominal mass. So at this point, the symptoms had been really quite mild, but something just didn't quite feel right. She had experienced a little bit of bloating, and so we immediately jumped into high gear, went from doctor's appointments to doctor's office, and we found out eventually that it was ovarian cancer. At that point, we had scheduled surgery and they didn't really know the extent of it. It ended up being around a 8-hour surgery, which was extremely difficult to be in the waiting room of. My mom has always been my rock and my best friend and my absolute world. So it was definitely a very nerve-wracking day, but thankfully they were able to remove 99% of it, which was extremely amazing, especially given the circumstances that it had actually spread to her arteries. So at that point, it was really fortunate that I wasn't working a traditional job. And so she ended up coming and living with me for the next month. And it was just a really, really precious time to have together, just, every morning, having breakfast and watching movies and, talking. So I'm always going to be grateful for that time. And even though all of this has been, the hardest year of my life, I feel very blessed that even though there were a lot of really, really difficult, hard moments, there was joy and laughter in every day. But after the surgery, of course, she had to undergo chemotherapy, and then the conversation began about what strain of ovarian cancer she had, and it turns out that she has the BRCA2 gene, which is a lot more common in Ashkenazi Jews, which is my ancestry. So when they determined that through the biopsies, they strongly recommended that my sister and I be tested. So at that point, of course, it's a nerve-wracking and emotionally fraught time already, but to add that on was definitely a lot. Thankfully, my sister's test returned back negative, and so she, didn't have too much to worry about, but my results did turn back that I was positive for the BRCA2 gene. So of course that began a whole other whirlwind of anxieties and worries and, what is this exactly going to mean for the future? Because it does come with the increased risk of breast as well as ovarian cancer. So at that point, it's really important, once you know that you are positive for a genetic mutation like that, just to, either be screened very thoroughly or decide to go the surgical route. I was initially screened and they found a worrisome lump, and so I had to get a biopsy and had several mammograms as well as ultrasounds. They had 2 other worrisome lumps that thankfully all 3 ended up being negative, but you can imagine how scary that time was, just waiting for test result after test result. So I spoke with my oncologist and doctor and the breast surgeon, and I've made the decision to do a bilateral double mastectomy. I just feel very, very grateful that there's something that I can do to put my health and my future in my own hands and not just kind of wait for the very good odds that I will develop breast cancer. So I'm currently planning on undergoing that surgery in the next year or so. So beyond that, as far as the ovarian cancer odds, just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea, I just turned 30, so nowhere in my future had I been anticipating that I'd be speaking with an oncologist about, my next 30 years in surgical terms. But that was my reality. And of course, I want to face it head on and hopefully, give myself every best odds for living a very healthy and happy and long life. So at that point, speaking with my mom and I's gynecological oncologist, who's absolutely wonderful and a good doctor, definitely makes all the difference going through these hard times. But we put together a plan as far as for me just having children, and then the next step is surgery to remove my fallopian tubes, and then in my mid to late 40s I'll end up having to get my ovaries removed and begin a hormone regimen, which again, it's not anything I anticipated, but I am very grateful that there are options out there. And of course, my mom's journey, thankfully, she just ended her last chemo and now is on an oral chemo, but I've just been so incredibly proud of her and just, met some really, really amazing women throughout this whole experience. And I guess my biggest takeaway would just be, to really listen to your body as best you can, to see a doctor if you suspect anything. If you are at an increased likelihood of breast cancer, to just really stay on top of it, to get checked. If you do have the ancestral tie, as we did, just really consider what it would mean to get genetic testing and know that there is hope. And if you can catch it early, it can, I joke and say with my mom that hopefully this is just a blimp on her otherwise healthy and very, very long life. So hopefully, even if you do find out that you are at an increased likelihood, it is something that you can absolutely accomplish, especially with wonderful doctors and surgeons, or even just choosing to be monitored. But I think the best thing that we can do is just really spread awareness for ovarian cancer, since the symptoms are so mild. Just to listen to your body. If you experience any kind of bloat or pressure or have any just inklings that something isn't quite right, to go to your doctor and see if it might just be an early sign that something's going on. But anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I wish you all the best and sending our love.